Pleased to welcome from Texas, Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, owner and CEO of her own law firm in Austin. She's also a candidate for the State House, the seat now held by James Tallarico, who is running for the U.S. Senate. Kate, welcome back to the briefing. Thank you very much for being with us.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
So, how many times have you seen the video of the shooting that took place on Wednesday, and from what angles?
Many times, and from several different angles. I've been sort of obsessively watching it and looking at slow motion videos and screenshots of it and listening for the audio instructions that Renee received, which do appear to be differing. You know, she was told to get out of the road. She was told to get out of her car. But I have been, a little too obsessively watching them, I think.
So I would say this, and you can agree or disagree with me, but at the outset, had she followed the orders of the ICE agent, she very well probably would still be alive today. Having said that, you have the vice president saying that she was trying to ram down that ICE agent. You have members of Congress, Republicans, saying she was trying to mow that ICE agent down. I looked at the video. I don't come to that conclusion. What is your conclusion?
I'm with you. It seems very clear that at the point that this agent shot her, he was out of she had started turning her vehicle, and he was not in the line of her vehicle. And I think one of the most concerning things about all of this, apart from her death, is that Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, President Trump came out so quickly with a narrative and a conclusion about what had happened without even saying, we will investigate, we're calling for an investigation, we're going to withhold judgment on this. Nothing of that sort. And so now, the decision has been made, and the FBI is now keeping the state of Minnesota out of the investigation and out of all of the evidence. And it looks like it's essentially a case closed from the perspective of the administration.
So I'm going to ask the question that Colby Hall, who's joining us in hour two, he's written a piece for Mediaite, but he is posing the very same question I mentioned at the top of the program, which is, if Renee Good, according to the White House, is a domestic terrorist, isn't Ashley Babbitt? Wasn't she trying to storm the Capitol? Tragically, they both died, and it is a tragedy, and we grieve for both families. But what's the difference between Ashley Babbitt and Renee Nicole Good?
Yeah, I mean, I got chills when I heard this accusation of domestic terrorism, because so many of us are engaging in this behavior. We're going to protests. We are getting out our phones and recording ICE when we see them, and all of this is legal. And when you hear the administration just immediately and swiftly, with no information, just other than the fact that she was there, call her a domestic terrorist in justification of her death, murder, I would call it. What does that mean for the rest of us? I just think tossing around that word is a really, really dangerous thing for the administration to be doing.
The other thing that is remarkable is you and I can look at the video and draw one conclusion. Others will look at the video, including the vice president, drawing a very different conclusion. You're a lawyer. The video speaks for itself. But why is that?
Well, I would argue that the people who watched the video, who are, saying that he was in the line of the vehicle, maybe haven't watched it as closely, or they want that to be the conclusion, and rather than investigating like they should be doing, they're just making the statement. And a lot of people online who were saying she got what was coming to her and she deserved it have not dug in and done the research. I mean, the legal standard on this was his action objectively reasonable? There needs to be an inquiry and an investigation into that. And I don't think it helps the administration's position that this particular agent had previous trauma related to a vehicle incident. Like J.D. Vance told us, that he was sensitive, to quote the vice president. If this agent was sensitive to vehicle issues and dangers, then perhaps he should not have been at the Minneapolis ICE actions where there were known to be protesters present. And they shouldn't have had this guy with a gun out on the streets if he had PTSD like that. So, I don't think it's objectively reasonable. I think the problem is that we are not going to see the FBI, ICE, et cetera, investigate itself. DOJ, they are done. They're not anticipating or telling us they're going to do any investigation. They're blocking out the state of Minnesota. They're blocking out the county attorney. And so we have, all of our hopes pinned on Congress to do some oversight and investigation, and, we've seen how those things go. So, I still hold out hope for civil litigation. And civil litigation, you can have subpoenas and you can have depositions and you can see evidence and some type of justice. But whether this agent will be criminally prosecuted soon, that doesn't seem very hopeful right now, and that sure is frustrating.
And again, the question is whether this was the exception or the rule when it comes to what we saw in Portland, Oregon, with two individuals who came from Venezuela and were shot and injured. Of course, the death of Renee, Nicole. We're talking to Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, and you mentioned the vice president. Here's what he said to reporters yesterday.
What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration law.
Again, we don't know if she was a left-wing radical. We know she was the mother of three. She had a partner, moved from Colorado to Minneapolis, dropped off her 6-year-old son at daycare, was heading home, lived in the neighborhood. Those are facts. But to your point as an attorney, is this relevant in any potential criminal case that might come forth?
That it shows that this agent was not objective. I actually think the vice president is making the argument against the administration and against this agent's actions. Obviously, he should not have been out on the road. If something so traumatic had recently occurred to him, they should not have handed him a gun and sent him into Minneapolis, where it's known to be high tension and protesters. That's just a no-brainer. So the fact that the vice president gets up on the podium and acts as if that supports their argument is a little shocking to me.
Let me ask you about two other issues. The president threatened to denaturalize Somali residents, a number of them, thousands living in Minnesota. Can he do that?
There is a process for denaturalization. That's when someone has obtained citizenship through the naturalization process. If there is found to have been fraud in their application, there can be an inquiry in a court case to remove their citizenship. There's only been a handful over the last few years. It's very, very rare. And so, no, can the president just do some sort of, wide-scale denaturalization of Somali citizens because he wants to? No. But, I think we know that the Somali population, many of them naturalized, many of them are politically active. Of course, Ilhan Omar is Somali, and Trump doesn't like this population, and so he would prefer that they not all be voters. And so he's going to threat to go in and just take away their citizenship, but the law does not provide for that, and there's a real set, type of due process for denaturalization that must be followed, that will be monitored by the court. So I think it's an empty threat, and it just demonstrates that the president feels threatened politically by the Somali community.
We are talking to Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. She's an attorney, but also running for the state house. So give us the 30-second pitch on why you're running in this seat in Austin.
Sure. I live in Austin, born and raised in Austin. My representative is James Tallarico, who I respect deeply. He is running for U.S. Senate. His seat is being vacated. I'm a 20-year immigration lawyer. I've been fighting for families in Central Texas, and I'm real sick and tired of Greg Abbott using billions and billions of Texas taxpayer dollars to terrorize families in the state while our educational system is going down the toilet. So, it's one of these moments where we all ask ourselves, what else can I be doing? And I thought, well, there was never a better time than now to run for office. So I'm in the throes of campaigning right now as a first-time candidate.
Well, good luck to you. Thank you so much for being with us. And we're talking to Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, who is our go-to person when it comes to immigration issues. We will keep track of your campaign in the State House. Thank you.